Greenlight Network presents Football Time.
Hey, and welcome to the Football Time Show. We're here from an undisclosed location, recording not out of the Greenlight Network studio, but recording nonetheless. With us, as always, is Achilles Reign to get in to NFL Week 4. Are you ready to get into the NFL Week, Achilles?
Oh yeah, man. Listen, I'm upset with myself that I had to make you and wifey record during your vacation, but we got to talk football. We have to.
That's correct. We definitely do got to talk football. So we'll talk a little bit about Thursday's night game. Not a whole lot of action other than the Tua situation, which I think just sort of compounded itself and sort of snowballed into a bad to worse situation. They told us it was a back injury. Both you and I were pretty dubious along the rest of the world. And then he got dropped on his head one more time. His whole body sort of seized up there, and it was not a great look. So, after that, basically, even though the Dolphins were leading for a little bit, I think the result was pretty predetermined. Even before that, it was sort of a scheduling loss for the Dolphins, having to play, back-to-back weeks, Baltimore, then Buffalo, then short week, go to Cincinnati. But what'd you make of the game and, the Tua situation? They already said he's okay at traveling back with the team. I hope they at least give him 1 week, off. But nonetheless, what'd you make of the Thursday game?
First off, I want to start off by saying, it's really unfortunate, the Tua injury. We saw last week, I think anybody who has a set of eyes could pretty much come to the conclusion that last week was a concussion. I know they called it a back injury, but it looked like a concussion to the average fan. Then you lead into this week, you're talking about a short week going up against a team. I know that the Bengals are struggling, but we all kind of assumed that eventually they would get it together. They have looked better over the last couple of weeks, which is good for them. But, Tua, after that injury, a short week, going up against a pretty aggressive defense. Ultimately it didn't turn out well for him or the Dolphins. But I had a few bets on this Dolphins team. Obviously, this was prior to knowing about Tua's situation. I don't think anyone knew it was going to happen back-to-back. But I think that if Tua would have remained in that game, I think the Dolphins cover this spread.
Well, yeah, me and you both, because, I thought the Bengals would win, but that line climbed, up to 4.5, and I just thought that was too much, and the game was playing out just that way, basically until the Tua situation happened. So, and you painted yourself into a corner because you couldn't say he was okay and then scratch him for Thursday's game with like a head injury or anything. And so you painted yourself into a corner, were forced to play him, and then, it's a little bit unlucky that he gets dropped on his head, one more time, but also that's sort of the risk you put yourself in when you put a concussed guy basically back into the game on Sunday and then put him in on Thursday. And we talked about it a little bit on our recap show where it just looked like the Dolphins were trying to win regular season games. And this is what you get when you try to win regular season games. There was no reason for him to play that game, especially after the win at Buffalo. There was no reason. So you're 3-1. You're 3-1 anyway, and now your quarterback might be out another week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on what they do. But it
almost feels like they're forced, like their hand's been forced now to keep him out for, I would say at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's really just all a product of them deciding to play him again this Thursday, and not to mention the fact that they brought him back into that game against Buffalo after that first injury. So very unfortunate, and especially for me because I've got two on my fantasy league, and I had a lot of money on the Dolphins.
Yeah, and you just. I think Wentworth said it best. If you watch the Prime show afterwards, you sort of got to take it out of the player's hands. And you can't ask him, are you okay? Because the answer's going to be yes, 98% of the time. You mix that with sort of the Dolphins season, and then, not many people are saying it, but Tua didn't get that fifth-year option picked up. So basically, he's a free agent at the end of this year, and it has to cross his mind each time he has a good game and puts up numbers. That's probably an extra $2 or $3 million, either from the Dolphins or somebody else that's going to give him a big long-term contract. So he's not about to pull himself out of a game if he sees a situation where he can make himself look better either.
Now, really quick, I know we're not trying to spend too much time on this game, but one thing I did want to mention is on social media, I've seen a huge backlash against the Dolphins organization, the NFL, and the head coach. I'm okay with the backlash towards the NFL. I'm okay with the backlash towards the organization, but I think the head coach gets a little bit of a reprieve here because
he just listened to what the doctor says.
Exactly. It's a first year head coach in a new system. He's a young guy. He hasn't had the experience because you're exactly right. At that point, it's out of the player's hands. You have to watch out for the safety. It just goes to show you that there's still a lot of loops and holes in the system that they put in place for player protection, because they're supposed to have independent, referees or whatever it is, or doctors that are monitoring all players. And if they see anybody that looks like they could have had a head injury, they pull them out. So we had failure from just about every level of management in that game, whether it's medical professionals or league professionals, whatever. There was definitely a failure. So there's holes that have to be fixed, but hopefully Tua makes a quick recovery and we can get him back soon.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the games, and let's start out across the pond in London. Our first London game, and we send them the best we can. The Minnesota Vikings, New Orleans Saints. Jameis is out because he's either hurt or sucks. It's, I think, sort of in between one on that one. Michael Thomas is also out. Vikings come in. Looks like Cook will be back, but Saints are two. I had 2.5, but I think it's up to 4.5 with the injury news now. So what do you make of this Vikings Saints game in London? I like the Saints in this one, but, I'd like it a whole lot more if it was in New Orleans. But I just think I do think it's a little bit of an upgrade getting Dalton in there. I think you'll be a little bit more controlled and just let your defense take over. I think Kamara will be more involved. So I like the Saints in this one, even if it isn't in the Superdome. But what do you make of this Vikings Saints game?
Man, I wish I was as confident as you are. I was a little torn when I was looking at this game. At first, my head was leaning towards the Vikings because of that explosive offense. Cook is going to be back. And then I remembered that I put money on the Vikings a couple weeks ago, and I remember how that turned out. So this is my favorite Jekyll and Hyde team, the Minnesota Vikings, and we just don't know which Viking team we're going to get. They have all the pretty weapons, they have all the nice looking toys, but you don't always get to play with them the right way, so it doesn't work out all the time. And as you mentioned, I do like the fact that they're Winston's not playing. He's hurt. I don't know. He's been playing bad, needless to say. So whether he's hurt or not, he hasn't been performing. Bringing Dalton, yeah, I know what we get from Dalton. Everyone knows what we're going to get from Dalton, but we don't know what we're going to get from Dalton in this system.
Yeah.
So it's still good for this organization to see where he stands. And like I said last week, I think that this opens things up for Taysom. It kind of opens up the playbook for him more to be able to use him more as a decoy. I know that some people are calling for him to be the starter, but I just think he's better served in the role that he plays, which is that decoy quarterback, running back, receiver spot. But yeah, I'm with you. I think I like the Saints in this game just because I don't know what Vikings team we're going to get, and just because of that, I don't have many plays for this one. I think I only have one play in this game, and that's Dalvin Cook coming back, and I got Dalvin Cook anytime touchdown at plus 100. So that's pretty much the only play I've got on that.
Yeah, I should say I sort of I went away from a lot of the parlays this week and sort of made a lot of my player props just straight up bets. So there are a lot more sort of straight up player props, just straight than parlays. I don't know if I got lazy or I was probably when we were doing our checks and going over wins and losses. There were a bunch in there that were like 1 out of 2, 2 out of 3, and I was just like, all right, I'm done with this. So I mentioned I thought Kamara might play a little bit better with Jameis Winston, because if you look the last 2 years when Jameis has been in and Kamara's been in, Kamara's not played as well. And then when Taysom Hill or Drew Brees is in the game, Kamara's a little bit better. So I got a bunch of Kamara stuff. Anytime touchdown plus 130, receiving yards over 29.5. I also have an alternate line of receiving yards at 50 plus at plus 390 for 125 on that one, and then rushing and receiving yards over 86.5 at 125 on that one. So I got those, and then I got our always favorite Kirk Cousins interception at even money at plus 100, 125 on that, and then I'm going to put 250 on the Saints at plus 3.5. So I did notice a little bit of a change though, going through the interception lines. Our favorite quarterbacks that we've been taking, they seem to got juiced up a little bit this week. So I noticed a lot more, like minus 200s on a handful of our guys that we had been milking for the interceptions this week.
Yeah, and that was kind of expected, right? I mean, it's almost like in baseball. You got those Nerfies, no run first innings. They hit pretty well in the beginning of the season, but as soon as teams start catching on, those lines start to shift a little bit, and then you don't get as good odds. But it was expected. I tell you what, I don't have one in this game because they've got 2 pretty good running backs featured. But one bet that I've kind of liked making over the last couple of weeks, and I haven't really talked about a lot. One of the sportsbook apps that I use has the shortest touchdown bet, and it's always at 1.5.
Yeah.
And I've hit quite a few of those already, so I'm probably going to ride on a couple of those this week.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next game. Chargers versus Texans. This one sits around 5.5 to 6 here. Keenan Allen out again. Herbert's going to play. Slater's going to be out for the year now. Bosa's going to be out for a handful of weeks. So it's a little hard to judge this game. I didn't end up taking a spread play on this because I just thought it was too much from what we've seen from the Chargers. But I didn't really want to grab the Texans here because this is sort of do or die for the Chargers right now. I don't think they can afford to lose this game here, or this season's going to sort of tailspin really, really quick. So I got no play on the Chargers at 5.5. I got a handful of player stuff, and I got a total bet here. The number's at 45. I think that Texans team, you've seen it, likes to sort of play open on the offensive side of the ball. I think we've seen the Chargers defense not be as good as I think people thought. You take Bosa out of that, I think they'll be a little worse, and I think the Chargers will be able to put points pretty well on this Houston Texans team. So what do you make of this Chargers-Texans game?
I kind of wish that this Chargers team was healthy because to start the season off, they look pretty exciting to watch. And they've slowed down a little bit with the injuries to Allen and now Herbert. But I had one bet that I put on this game, and I did it pretty early in the week. And I think the sportsbook might have thought there was a chance he would play. Looks like I'm going to get my bet back because I had Keenan Allen anytime touchdown. Looks like that will be paying off. But overall, though, I think that this is going to be a good test for this Houston team. I know that they've been kind of up and down, but we've mentioned the fact they've been pretty aggressive in their play. And if they can do it against this Charger team, I know I still like the Chargers to cover the spread, but I think that there's a good shot that Houston can cover this on backdoor, especially late in that game, if they can just manage expectations. This is a pretty good Charger team regardless of injuries, and they're going to come at you pretty hard. But we saw what Jacksonville was able to do with them last week. So if they can manage things correctly, implement the run and maybe get some deep pass out to Cook, then they have a pretty good shot to at least cover the spread.
Yeah, so that's where I was. I I'm not going to trust the Chargers team right now. Certainly as a favorite and not as a favorite over like 3 points, no matter who they're playing. So I'm going total over 45 for 125. And then I'll tell you, switch that Keenan Allen touchdown to Mike Williams touchdown plus 115 right now. Mike's gotten off to a little bit of a slow start. Now, some of that probably has to do a little bit with, Justin Herbert being hurt, but I think he grabs one. And then the other one I'm looking at here is I got a lot of Dameon Pierce. I thought last week the Texans sort of finally handed over the sort of running back duties to Dameon Pierce. He looked pretty good in this one. I think the Chargers' run defense, you saw it versus the Jaguars, where both Robinson and Etienne sort of carved them up a little bit. So I got Pierce anytime touchdown plus 150 for 62.50. I got Dameon Pierce over 64.5 yards at minus 120 for 125. And then I'm going to take Dameon Pierce 100 plus yards at plus 410 for 62.50. So a couple of those, and then I think Herbert will bounce back here. So I got Herbert over 1.5 touchdowns at minus 140 as well for 125.
Well, I hope one of those is to Mike Williams because I just put my bet in.
All right. So it shifts from Keenan Allen to Mike Williams. So there you go. So Josh Palmer probably catching 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. So let's go to the Chicago Bears versus the New York Giants. And I'm going to say, this is probably, other than the Rams game and the Cowboys game last week, this is probably one of my favorite ones of the season so far. And this opened at 3.5. It's down to 2.5 right now. I'm all about taking the Giants on this one. I thought they played pretty well on Monday night. The Cowboys just played a little bit better. This Bears team, I think we both think pretty much a fraud. So I'm not sure they're going to go into New York and be able to win a game there. So I just like this 2.5 line. I'm really, really aggressive on this one. I think the Giants cover this pretty easy. So I got a couple different bets in this one. What do you make of the Giants-Bears game here?
Listen, I'm with you, man. I like the Giants in this one. I'm not as bold as you are, so I don't have a play in this. I think when I was looking at some prop bets, I didn't see much value in what I thought could happen. I'm sure that you found something there, so I'm curious to hear what you have to say about it. But I do want to say that this Giants team, they're hard to gauge because I do think that they're better than the Bears. I mean, you know that the Bears have less passing touchdowns than I think it was 5 of the top wide receivers do on their own. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's crazy how bad they've been offensively. But even with all that, I like the Giants here. I don't think that the Bears can put up enough points if they can put any points up at all. It's just the Giants give me a little bit of a pause. It's hard to gauge them. They look like a good team, but then you look at the way that they finish off and who they're playing, you're like, maybe they're not that good. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm going to roll with you on this one and say the Giants cover this spread.
Well, I should probably say I got a couple big plays here, but it's a lot of these matchups like the Bears and the Giants where you're sort of looking at it and you're saying who is a good bad team and who is just a bad team, and you're getting a low spread here, so I'm going with the Giants are sort of a good bad team, and the Bears are just a bad team here. So, this could also quite blow up in your face quite easily because everybody might just be a bad team, and it's how the Bears have won 2 games. Flukiness.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say.
And it's not like the Giants aren't renowned for weird turnovers. So I just think the Giants probably a little better than the Bears from what I've watched with the Bears. Offensively, I don't know if they can score enough points. And I think the Giants have shown that while I don't think they're good, they're probably good enough to win a game like this and end up, 7-8 wins on the season. So I got the Giants 2.5, 750 on that one. I moved an alternate line to minus 9.5 at plus 211, 125 on that one. And then I got a handful of Saquon Barkley stuff, over 80.5 yards at minus 115, 125 on that. Saquon Barkley, 100 plus yards at plus 200, 125 on that. And then this one I thought was a little bloated. So I don't know if I'd suggest everybody go after this one. But I just think Saquon's going to have a big game here. His rush and receiving was over 113 and a half, which seemed a little bit high. But if I think he's going to get 100 yards, then I assume he can probably get one catch for 14 yards. So I went with that one as well at minus 115 on that one at 125. And then I'm going to take a couple flyers on David Sills, who's probably going to play a little more than people think because they don't seem to like Kenny Golladay anymore, and we saw Sterling Shepard go out. I don't even know if Kadarius Toney still exists. I'm sure there will be one game where he pops up and gets 200 yards receiving and then is never to be seen again. But David Sills, sort of a classic little slot receiver. So I think he gets some catches here. So anytime touchdown on David Sills is plus 260, 62.50 on that. And then his receiving yards over 26.5 on that one. And then lastly, I got a defensive one. Kayvon Thibodeau came back last week in that Dallas game. Sort of a tough one to break yourself into Monday night versus a big rival. But if anyone's watched the Bears line, I think there's a chance he can get off the schneid here and get a sack, and it's not even a full sack. The number was 0.25. So if he
just
gets
a half a sack.
If he gets half a sack, and it's plus 2.5 at plus 340. So
oh wow,
I thought that was really good value, especially versus this Bears team. And the only sort of question mark there is if the Bears are going to throw over 15 passes in the game. So he might not drop back enough to get enough opportunities. But I thought it was pretty good value at 0.25 plus 340. So 125 on Kayvon Thibodeau's sack on that one.
I like that one.
All right, let's go to Seahawks and Lions. Last number I looked at was 4.5 for this, but I'm sure it's changed a little bit because the Lions are down their two, receivers, and then they're also down DeAndre Swift. So this one was interesting. I think if you could still get it at 4.5, I might lean a little Seahawks here. I've been hot and cold on that. Last night I was cold, so I didn't put it in my picks. So what do you make of Lions Seahawks here?
I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. Now we finally get to see if this Lions team is all St. Brown and Swift, or if this team's actually good enough to, be able to move the ball with some of their secondary guys and third option guys. If they can, then I think this Lions team is going to start turning heads and start changing opinions as far as whether they're good or not. I still don't think that they're great, but they've been playing good football, and you have to give them props for that. But I was really torn. If I knew for a fact that Brown, like early in the week, if I was making this pick, I probably would have taken the Lions with the spread just because they've been playing that good football. But without Brown, without Swift, two of their biggest weapons, I think it's probably going to limit Goff a little bit and his ability to throw the ball downfield. It's probably going to shrink the field. It's not going to spread out that defense. So it's probably going to close up a lot of holes for Williams. So it might make it a little tough, for running game. But I still think that they can do some noise. But if I had to make a play on this game, which I don't have a play, but if I had to, I'd probably take Seattle on the points.
Yeah, that's just where I'm leaning. It'll be a good test for the Lions because, they really blew that game last week versus Minnesota. But, you can talk yourself into that you probably don't go in, at least us, looking at a schedule and being like, at Minnesota, Lions going to win. You just sort of then watch the game and are like, wow, they should have won that game.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, these are the games the Lions are going to have to win if they really want a shot at sort of one of those last wild card spots. This Seattle team hasn't been good, but I still think, they have weapons on the outside and both, Lockett And so they can certainly hit you, and this Lions team has shown not a ton of ability defensively. And I assume at some point we brought it up a little bit that the Seahawks are going to try to run the ball more. Yeah.
Isn't that what Pete Carroll says is his claim to fame? A good
Yes.
defense and running the ball.
Well, I keep assuming that's coming, and I assume I will cash in, though Penny's gotten his over in 2 of the 3 games. It's just you wonder why more carries aren't going that way, and they're throwing the ball 40 times with Geno Smith. So I got 3 things in this. TJ Hockenstein, anytime touchdown. I think with the receivers gone, Swift gone, Hockenstein becomes the best target down in the red zone.
His
for the
favorite target.
Yeah, to throw to plus 155, so I thought that was pretty good anytime touchdown value. Penny hasn't scored a touchdown yet, so plus 160 anytime touchdown for Rashad Penny, and over 60 and a half yards rushing for Rashad Penny at minus 125. I got 125 on that one, so small little player ones out of Seahawks Lions for me.
I think this is the week that Penny gets into the end zone.
Let's hope so. Because I'm tired of marking him as red when I go back over my wins and losses.
Hey, listen, I've taken him a few times myself, and it just says I believe the talent's there.
Yeah.
You know, he's definitely got it. I just don't think he's getting the opportunity.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. If you go look at his averages on numbers and touches, and when he gets the ball, he's fine. It's just for some reason they haven't given him the ball. I mean, we talked about in our recap show, they had 24 carries for 140 yards last week, but they let Geno throw 45 times, and it's okay.
That's a recipe for success. Geno Smith throwing the ball.
All right, let's go to Jags Eagles. I really didn't have much on this. I am going to play the Jags at 6.5. I probably will end up buying that up to 7 because I think the Eagles are the better team here. But honestly, 7 just seemed like an awful lot for this team. I know they've gotten off to hot starts, and we talked about it on our recap show that it's probably not a big deal that they haven't scored, 2 weeks in a row in the second half, but it sort of becomes a big deal when you're trying to cover 7-point spreads. It doesn't become a big deal when it's 3-point spreads, but 7-point spreads, that makes me a little nervous. This Jags team has played really, really well, so I don't love it, but I just thought the number was a little high here on this one for 2 teams that I don't think are separated by all that much.
Now, I will say this, if you had to question me, or if someone came up to me and said, the Eagles are the best team in the league right now, I would really have a hard time arguing with them simply just because of the way they played and the fact that they're undefeated. But as you mentioned, I think this Jaguars team is no pushover.
Yeah.
I don't think they're as good as everyone's hyping them up to be, but I think that they're better than we all thought they were going to be.
I think if we were ranking them, I think they'd be a top 7 team right now. I mean, you'd have your normal ones in there. And then, it's a lot of mishmash after, Bills, Chiefs, Rams, Eagles. And after that, I think everybody's pretty flawed.
I mean, off the top of my head, I can't really tell you where I think I'd put them right now if we were doing re-rankings, but I know that I would definitely have them in the top 15.
Yeah.
Which is, that's saying something for a team that was last in the league last year. So, but, again, this 6.5 point spread, I kind of like the Jaguars, and I'll tell you why. I look back at the games for this Eagles team; they really haven't beaten any elite team.
Yeah,
they've beaten up on a lot of the the up and comers, like this Lions team, for example.
Yes.
But even this Lions team was able to move the ball against them, so their defense has been struggling. And this Jacksonville team, I think I don't know the exact number, but I think over the last 2 weeks they've outscored opponents 56-10 or something like that. So
they're 2 in point differential only to the Bills. So
they're doing a really good job at keeping opponents from scoring and putting points up. So I like the chemistry between Kirk and the quarterback, and I think they can only get better for them. So for that reason, I've only got one play straight up here, and that's just a prop bet. I got A.J. Brown to score an anytime touchdown simply because of the amount of targets that Hurts gives them. But I do have Jacksonville at plus 6.5 in one of my parlays.
Yeah, I got them in a couple money line parlays. Jacksonville, because I just thought the value was there. I don't know if they're going to win, but regular season week 4, I just I think it was at 240 when I saw it. I'm like, that just seems like pretty good value for a team that's outscored. I mean, they've given up like 13 points the last 2 weeks and scored 40 in like both games. So, give me 240, I'll take it. So I have Jacksonville 6.5. I'll probably just pull it up to that 7 if it doesn't go there. So 250 on that one. I had no bets on this next game. I had no clue what to do with it. Jets and Steelers.
Oh gosh, I was dreading this game.
I think Zach Wilson is going to be a go, but I don't quite know what that means. I just didn't want to touch any player props on the Steelers side of things. I didn't really want to touch any player props on the Jets side of things, and I didn't want to take anything on the spread or the total because this game could be played in the 60s or it could be played in the 10s for all I know. I think I have a couple Jets like money line parlays and maybe like some alternate line parlay just because there might be a little value in the Jets here just because I don't really know if the Steelers are actually better than the Jets. I think they're both just bad teams here. But what did you come up with in this one? Because I don't think there's a lot you can do with it.
No, there's not, And I even went and I looked at the player touchdown prop bets, and I'm trying to find value. But then again, it's like there's a few, players on there who are giving you good plus numbers. But, I mean, are they even going to get the ball? And this is, no slight in any of these teams, but even if Wilson does go today, we haven't seen him play this season, and we haven't seen him with this new core group of guys that they've added on there. So we don't know what to expect from him. First week back from injury, also we don't know how he's going to look. And then you switch it over to Pittsburgh. I mean, they've looked okay, but the Watt injury made a much bigger impact than I thought it would. I mean, I know he's a huge part of their defense, but I thought they could get through it last week without him, and they just weren't able to do it. And they struggled on defense and offensively. They're just not quite there yet. So I really have no play for this game, but I will say this is one of those games that I'll probably watch again in the condensed version. I probably won't spend too much time watching it, but I do want to see how both these teams look, and especially if Wilson comes back.
Yeah, I think that's probably what I'm just most curious to see. See how this team functions with Wilson and maybe down the line take advantage of that. But first game back, I didn't even want to touch it when he's not even they say he's a go, but then I don't want the rug pulled out. And we got Joe Flacco, Mitch Trubisky in Pittsburgh going down.
That's a marquee matchup right there. That'll put some butts in seats.
And even like the Steelers' run defense was poor last week versus Cleveland, but the Jets cycle through 3 or 4 different backs, so it really makes it hard to like pin something down for like a player prop there that you want to take because you just don't know. And then same thing on the receiver side of things. They got a couple different receivers. You don't know which one Zach's really going to throw to, so it was sort of just all right, move on to the next one, see what this one has to offer. This one, I do got a big play on. This next one, Cleveland Browns at the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons a 1-point dog in this one, so I really like this Falcons team. I watched them again in that Seattle game. I thought that would be a tricky game. They went up there, and their offense is legit sort of, it's just good. It's weirdly good. They got Mariota, who can sort of run pass. They have Cordell Patterson, who has turned into Gale Sayers for some reason, and then they got Pitts finally involved last week, mixed that with another really good Drake London game. They just have a good offense, and their run defense has been pretty solid. So I think if their run defense holds up here versus Cleveland, getting 1.5 points, I really, really like Atlanta in this game, even though, they are coming back from having 2 West Coast games. But I just like Falcons here getting 1 point. So I got 750 on the Atlanta Falcons +1. This is another one of those games I was talking about with the Giants where you're sort of trying to sort through good, bad teams here. And I think Atlanta's probably the better good, bad team here.
I was looking at this game and I thought I was leaning more towards Cleveland. And simply because I feel with that type of rushing attack, that offensive line does a really good job at run blocking. And they got two-headed beasts with Hunt and
Chubb.
so I'm drawing Nick Chubb. I was going to say Bush for some reason. I had
Reggie's
Bush in my
not on
head.
the team.
No, not Reggie Bush. For some reason, I had like Nick Bush in my head, and I knew that it wasn't right. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stumble on this before I say the wrong thing. But I think that they could slow the game down enough to where they could probably keep Atlanta's offense, which has been pretty surprisingly good. They can keep them off the field a little bit. But even then, I feel like Atlanta's offense is good enough to where maybe they won't be able to slow them down. So I couldn't come up with a good play, but I do have one here. I've got a prop bet for receiving and rushing yards combined over 64.5 for Kareem Hunt. I was really looking for that Cordero Patterson, but I didn't think it had enough value. This Hunt one is at -115, and we've seen him basically be the dual threat running back for that team. They run the ball so heavily with Chubb that even Hunt's getting a lot of work. We go back to a team like Seattle where we talked about Penny not getting enough work. If he was on this team, he'd get more than his fair share because they love running the ball, and that's what they should be doing right now, especially with the quarterback they have.
Yeah. With the Falcons +1, I got 2 player props. I got Pitts touchdown +175, and then I got Mariota touchdown +175 as well, 62.50 on both those. So a couple touchdown props with my really my big one, Falcons +1, 750 on that one. Next one. I really didn't know how to handicap this one either. The only thing I could say, I've gone back to my punts on the total prop on this one. So Titans, Colts 3.5. I really sort of leaned Titans here, especially with that number 3.5, but honestly, I just don't quite know what to make of these two teams. I wouldn't trust the Colts as a favorite, but I don't quite know if I trust the Titans yet to go on the road and win a game. So the only thing I really looked at here was punts over 8.5. So I got punts over 8.5 for 125.
Yeah, I'll tell you which one I have. I have only got one prop bet for this game. I was leaning towards the Colts side a little bit because they looked a lot better last week. But the first couple of weeks, there's something to be said about the way they played and who they played against. And this Tennessee team, same thing. I think both of these teams are at about the same level right now. You could tell by the spread, but you could tell me either one of these teams would win, and I could totally buy it. So the only play I've got for this game is since Pittman came back, he started getting some good targets from Ryan. I got Pittman anytime TD at +155. I thought that for a game with division rivals, that's probably a must-win game for both of them. I think he's got a pretty good shot at getting in the end zone.
Yeah. Punts is all I got. So I can't offer much more than that. I probably have better analysis after I watch this. I do think this is sort of a throw your kitchen sink in this game because I think the winner at least gives himself a shot. I think the loser of this one just sort of falls by the wayside here. So I look for both teams to really sort of try to win this game and sort of cast the other one aside. I know that's a little crazy 4 weeks in, but, I think the Jags is clearly the best team out of these three. And you're already opening with a loss here, so one of these teams is going to go to 1-3, and I just think that's sort of going to be tough to overcome for sure. So let's go to the next one, and this one I almost put it in, and I might talk myself into taking this team.
Don't do it.
I haven't
do it.
done it yet. Commanders at Dallas. Dallas is 3.5-point favorites. I very much want to take the Commanders here, but
You've been on them the last week too, weren't you?
Well, yeah, because they were getting 7. I think this is more just a play against the Cowboys. I won a lot of money on them on Monday. I don't know if it's just because the news is going on and on about Cooper Rush, and I'm just, I'm like, yes, he's played solid football, but it's not exactly like the Cowboys are running, a sophisticated Kansas City Chiefs offense here. They're basically running a high school offense where they hand the ball off, make short throws, and occasionally do a play action deep to CeeDee Lamb. It's not exactly rocket science, and then let their defense take over and try to win them the game. So when it's Cooper Rush, he's 3-0. Well, maybe he should be starting the full time, and it just I'm like, all right,
I love
down.
people
The
like
guy
that.
was on the free agent market looking for a practice squad here, so maybe that's filtered in my head. Maybe just the Cowboys winning 2 in a row, and still not thinking they're all that great. Now, granted, if you watch that Washington Commanders film versus the Eagles, there's no question this team is not that great. So that's probably what's kept it off for now. But what do you make of Cowboys Commanders 3.5?
So I guess I'm a product of our sports media nowadays, and you hear all the hype about Cooper Rush, and yeah, it's definitely a feel good story. But the truth of the matter is, this is a backup quarterback, and yes, he's proven himself to be at least a legit backup quarterback.
Yeah, he can stick around for 15 years and beat Chase Daniel and make $50 million in your career. It's an okay life.
Yeah, but the problem is that I don't think we can expect a performance that the performance that he's been putting up week in and week out. I don't think you can expect it from him. And at some point, he's going to have that moment of adversity, that moment where he throws a pick that he just can't, or he can't get that game-winning drive, or he makes a mistake or puts his team behind the 8 ball. It's going to come up, and we still haven't seen how he handles it. We still haven't seen how this Cooper Rush-led Cowboys team will handle it. I still think they're better with Prescott.
Yes.
I mean, let's just be honest. And yes, he's playing well. Cooper Rush is playing well, but he's not a starting quarterback. And maybe one day he will be. But at this point in his career, he's not. So I ended up chickening out. And then I almost thought about the Commanders, but then I remember what they did last week. So I don't have a play in this game.
Tape of the Commanders from last week if you want to bet on them this week.
I don't have a play in this game, but I will say that if you held me at knife point or gun point, I don't want to be too graphic, and I had to take one, I'd probably lean more the Cowboys, but I don't have a play here. Real quick before we move on from here, I forgot about 2 bets I had for the last game we talked about, the Colts and the Titans. I do have 2 more bets. I have. No, I have. Well, you're gonna like this one. Well, the second one. First one is my 1.5-yard touchdown thing that I talked about earlier. I've got that one at minus 110, and then I've got this one. This one I thought you'd like, the race to 20 points, and I took neither. So that's plus 475. I thought that was pretty good value for 2 teams that have struggled so far this season.
The only problem with that is both quarterbacks might be involved in screwing you over by giving points to the other team.
It probably will, but I see it coming a mile away, so I won't be too hurt about it.
You might get one of those where Ryan throws a pick on the 20, and then Tannehill throws a pick 6 on the 5.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too good for me.
All right, I had a couple in the Commanders game here. Probably to avoid taking the Commanders, I just took a lot of props that would have to happen if the Commanders were to win. And then if they lost, I might still hit 1 or 2. So I got McLaurin and Dotson, anytime touchdown, plus 190 for McLaurin. Dotson's 260, 62.50 on those 2. Wentz over 1.5 touchdowns. That's passing touchdowns, plus 170, 125 on that one. Dotson receiving yards over 32.5, minus 115. And McLaurin, 100 plus receiving yards, plus 630. So I got 125 on that one. And then sort of cover all that and make sure I don't lose any money. The Micah Parsons sack prop was at 0.25 minus 190. I have 500 on that. So the 250 should balance out everything else. Because if you did watch that tape last week, Carson Wentz got sacked like 400 times. So I think Parsons is okay to get half a sack this week. So I just use that to cover it.
Yeah, and if you watch any Cowboys defensive film, you'll see that Parsons, he's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Bills, Ravens. Weirdly enough, I'm not on the Bills this week, though I wasn't really on them real aggressive last week either. I did my sort of quarters bets and I split those. So Bills, Ravens, 3.5, 3. It's been going back and forth between those. How do you see this game? Did you play anything here, or is just? I think the Bills are the better team and have a better chance of running away with this from what I've sort of seen, especially from Baltimore's defense. But I just didn't want to be real aggressive on this one, especially with the Bills going back-to-back games on the road, Miami, then Baltimore. Where do you see this one?
I definitely had that thought myself, but to me, the Bills, regardless of the record, regardless of who they lost to, I still think that they're the best team right now in the league, just talent-wise, up and down, both offense, defense, special teams. And I think that last week is going to make them really hungry. They're going to come out this game, and I think they're going to be really aggressive. Now, they're going up against a pretty formidable Ravens team, but this Ravens team, defensively, there's a lot of question marks there.
Yeah.
They haven't been really good defensively. And you're talking about a Bills team that on offense can just hit you so many different ways. So then I look at this Ravens offense, which is pretty good too, but this Bills defense is actually good. And that's probably where the difference sits for me. I know that it's coming off of a loss and, you're going up against really good teams over the last few weeks, but this Bills team, man, they're just I know they lost last week, but I didn't expect them to, and I'm not going to expect them to lose this week either. I've got a couple of Bills bets here. I'll read them off to you real quick. The first one, my new favorite thing, the over 1.5 yard touchdown for shortest touchdown of the game. But I also have the Bills at -3 in one of my parlays. And then I have a one-game parlay. I've got Stephon Diggs to score anytime. And the Bills over 17.5 points scored in the game, and that gives you plus 115 odds. I thought that, for over 17.5 for a Bills team and Stephon Diggs, one of the most targeted receivers in the league, plus 115 I thought was pretty good value.
Yeah, I have a fun little same game parlay with the Bills in it. I'll give towards the end. I did my punts prop, but this time, not over, under. So I have punts under 6.5 in Buffalo, Baltimore. Mostly because Buffalo never punts the ball. They didn't even really punt it last week. If you go look at the drive chart, they just kept failing in the red zone, and then the kicker missed a couple kicks.
Well, I think they've punted 2 times this season or something like that.
That's correct.
That's crazy.
So I think 6.5. It was a little better than the over, which was at 52. And if anybody's been paying attention to the NFL this season, basically unders hit in every game. So I wasn't about to be aggressive on the over 52 when unders have been hitting like crazy. So I just went under 6.5 punts, Buffalo, Baltimore in this one. All right, I got another big one in this next game, and this falls in sort of the same line of bad team versus good bad team. And I think the good bad team is getting a pretty beneficial line here. So, and a beneficial line, and it's moved. It opened 2.5 Carolina. Last night, Carolina was at +1. I don't know what people have been watching with the Arizona Cardinals, but nothing I have seen has said this team is going to go on the road to the East Coast and win a game. So I'm all over Carolina Panthers. This is another one I got 750 on. Carolina plus the 1, and I have no clue why the spread has moved 3 points one way or the other. I just think Carolina's the better team here. They were in both those first two games that they lost. They played a really good game last week, got the win. So I'm back on the Carolina train here at +1.
Sorry. Yeah, I had a couple picks in this game, and I was trying to get my sports book to cooperate here, but it's acting funny with me. But I think I remember what it was. Now I'm on the opposite side of you. Okay, I know that I definitely haven't seen anything from this Cardinals team to lead me to believe that they're going to win this game, and that's where, in my opinion, the trap lies. I think that this Carolina team is susceptible. We heard about McCaffrey being in the injury report this last week. He's a little banged up. Baker kind of been doing a little too much, more than he should be doing. But they're starting to get a rapport, and I think that's one of the reasons why the line was what it was. But I don't know why I have this weird feeling that Murray's going to come out and he's going to keep that Carolina offense off the field. He's going to keep drives alive with his legs, and if that's the case, then I think they can manage to squeak one out here. I'm not super confident about it, but something in my head said roll with the Cardinals this week. So I think I have the Cardinals at what is +1.5. I think it's where the line is at.
It was +1 Carolina for me. So,
Okay, so
night.
-1.
So it might be -1 to you now.
Okay.
It probably depends when you got it, because like I said, it opened 2.5 Carolina, and people have been putting money on the Cardinals there. I got a ton of stuff in this one. I mentioned Carolina +1, 750 on that one. If you watch the Arizona Cardinals defense, I know they didn't give up a passing touchdown, but basically every receiver the Rams had was wide open all over the field. So I know Baker hasn't been great, but I think Anderson and Moore can get open in this game. So I have both Anderson and Moore anytime touchdown, +155, +165 for those two. Baker Mayfield over 1.5 touchdowns at +155. I have DJ Moore over 50.5 receiving yards at -115. 100+ receiving yards for DJ Moore's +630. I really like that. If you don't want to bet on this game, I think there's a really good chance DJ Moore goes over 100 in this game. And at +630, that's really, really good value. The Cardinals just can't cover anyone. So I'm sure DJ's probably going to hit one. Anderson over 37.5, and Anderson was 80 plus yards, was +640. So I think for sure one of those guys is going to hit a big one, because basically the Cardinals give up a long pass every game. I think you're good there. And then I have McCaffrey rush receiving over 96.5. I put 500 on that because I think he'll go off on that one too. So I got a lot on this Carolina team, just based on I don't think Arizona can play any defense here. So I'm big on Carolina this week.
I hope you're wrong for my sake, because, like I said, I definitely see the logic there. It makes a lot of sense, but it feels like a trap to me.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the Broncos and the Raiders. I wasn't touching this game spread-wise for anything in the world, because, one, the Broncos don't ever score, and the Raiders randomly score in, I don't know, one half and then don't score for another half. So I wasn't touching this. I got a couple player props in this one, but what did you make of this game? Was there any way to handicap it with any sort of science here?
I don't think there is. I'm sure there is somewhere. I'm sure there's some stat nerd somewhere working. They could break it down to you, but not the average guy here. So I'd be honest with you, this seems like an ugly game to me. I do have a couple of bets here. This Raider team has been really disappointing. Now, I've said a few times, and hopefully it works out at the end of the year, but I thought that the Raiders could be third or fourth in this division. And it wasn't for a lack of talent, because they've got a lot of talent. It's more the upper echelon, the management, the head coach. I'm not a big fan of the head coach. With all that being said, I still can't get my sports book to log in here, so I'm just going to go off the top of my head. I believe I have have the Raiders -3.5 for one of my parlays. Okay, I was trying to get some value, so I had to take a spread there. But I also looked at Devontae Adams anytime touchdown. No value there for me. I know they've been targeting him a lot, and he definitely has a good shot to get in, but I don't think the value was there. I believe what I ended up taking was Josh Jacobs, anytime touchdown, and I think it was at plus 125, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I got two player ones in this one. I got Derek Carr over 1.5 touchdowns, minus 130. They don't seem to ever want to run the ball, despite the running back being pretty solid. So I think Derek sort of finds a good rhythm in this one, at least at home. So I thought over 1.5, pretty solid, 130. And then Sutton over 66.5. The Raiders defense is really, really poor in the secondary. So, Russell get his 200 yards unspectacularly. So I think Sutton goes over his number at 66.5 here. Nothing else really in this game. This next one basically is I don't know. I don't know how you talk yourself into taking the Pats even at this big number, but I wasn't touching the Pack at 9.5. I took an alternate line in it, I will say, just because if there's going to be something happen in this game, it's probably Packers blowout. So 20.5 was plus 315, but I mean, this one just hard to handicap because I don't know what the Patriots are going to do offensively, but they're probably solid enough defensively, and I am assuming the Packers are going to come out with a pretty conservative game plan, just try to get up and run those two running backs. So it was sort of hard to go either way on this one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You know that every week we do our rankings for spreads for the week, and I got to be honest with you, I really didn't know where to put it. It definitely wasn't one of my favorites, but 9.5 points is a lot of points.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about it going up against the Bill Belichick defense. So that part scares me a little bit. So I wasn't going to touch the Packers, that's for sure. And I thought about taking the Patriots, but their quarterback's banged up.
Yeah, there's a real chance they get shut out, and that's
Yeah.
what you don't
I mean,
want
not to
any
mention-
part of whatever their point spread is.
Not to mention the fact that even when healthy, they haven't been good so far. So I'm probably a no play for this game. I don't even know how you could even get prop bets out of this, to be honest with you. So I'm probably a no play, more of a wait and see if Bill Belichick can scheme up something to slow down the opposing offense. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, basically, I told you about the alternate line, 20.5. That's, if they do get shut out and it's, 24-0, 27-0, get a little freebie 3-1 there. And then I got a couple touchdown props. Lazard was plus 165, which I thought was pretty good value considering when they've been down around the goal line. They've been sort of slotting him in that slot spot or just off into a tight end spot and just having his big body catch touchdowns. Romeo Doubs looks like the one who's been the rookie who's going to sort of get the most love. His touchdown prop was plus 180. And then I had Aaron Jones over 57.5 rushing yards and 100 plus for Aaron Jones. Like if the Pack do get up big like they did in that Bears game,
they're going to pound it.
They're just going to pound Aaron Jones, and he went over 100 in that one. He probably could go under it in this one. So over 100 for Aaron Jones was plus 550. So I thought there was pretty good value there.
Hey, what did you get Lazard at?
Plus 165.
Well, I just realized that I have him also in one of my bets, but to anytime touchdown. But I got him at plus 125, unfortunately.
Yeah, that would be why we shop around. Two different books. I think 165 was on DraftKings. So
but see, if I did that, then I would have been forced to put all my my picks into digital form, which I was too lazy to do. So I stuck with the one sports book.
Yeah. So shop around your touchdown props because they are vastly different on all of them because you just heard it. He has 125. I have 165. So
man,
that's a big difference. All right.
Yeah.
Any others in this one that you had?
No, I do like your Aaron Jones one. Again, my sportsbook didn't have that one. It was a tad bit higher. I think when I looked at it, it was the 74.5.
Yeah.
And there's a good shot, but I just thought that it was a little too risky.
74.5 is bad. 57.5 is good.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Kansas City, Tampa Bay. I really want to take Kansas City in this one. Getting a point here. but I wasn't real aggressive on it. Well, Evans is coming back for sure. Godwin and Jones are sort of questionable, and quite honestly, I wouldn't even count on them if they come back. Certainly not Julio Jones. So maybe the Bucs offense gets a little bit going, but I'm not sold yet. I want to see it. So I put a little on Kansas City +1 just because I'm not going to trust Tampa to score points till I see them starting to score points. So I have Kansas City +1, 250. But I didn't love it just because they're on the road.
Yeah, and listen, I'm right there with you. I don't know how to really look at this game. Tampa Bay, in my opinion, is probably the better team, but that Tampa defense has been playing stellar defense, and because that offense has been pretty much non-existent.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to do anything on offense, and it's really just
3 touchdowns, 3 games. That's
yeah, and it's. But I mean, realistically, it's due to the fact they had suspensions, injuries, new guys. It's a whole cluster of things there. But I do think that this Kansas City offense has the ability, especially the way they played so far this season, where you don't know who's going to get the targets that week. Obviously, you know Kelsey's going to get his targets, but other than that, you don't know if it's Schuster, you don't know if it's one of the running backs. You really don't know. They do a really good job of mixing things up. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are doing a stellar job with the weapons they have on that offense. And I think that could be the difference in this game, their ability to spread the ball around to different weapons. So for that reason, that's the only bet I've got for this game. I took Kansas City -1.
Yeah.
That's
I got Kansas City 250 on that one. The other one I had, Mike Evans 2+ touchdowns. It's a little hard to take Tampa Bay with 2+ touchdowns when they've only scored 1 touchdown a game.
That's what I was going to say. Is this for the season, or what are we talking about?
But I figure if Evans is the only one that really comes back healthy for the Bucs, and they get down on that goal line, Tom's probably going to throw to Mike Evans, so there's a solid chance at there. It's not great odds either. It's 7-1, which it's okay. But when you consider they're scoring 1 touchdown a game and you're asking one receiver to score 2, it gets a little mixy. But I thought there was at least a shot there because he might be the only thing to throw to.
Did you say it's 7-1 for for multiple touchdowns?
Yeah, 7-1 for 2 touchdowns.
That's crazy, man. Was it 2 weeks ago? I think Wifey was trying to put a prop in on Cooper Kupp, and she had him going for multiple touchdowns. And I said, "There's no you know how hard it is to get multiple touchdowns." And she's like, "Well, he did it last week." I'm like, "Yeah, you know how hard it is to get multiple touchdowns back-to-back weeks."
Yeah.
And so I talked her out of it. And, of course, he scored 2 touchdowns that game, too.
Yeah.
But I think his odds were better. I mean, it's Cooper Kupp we're talking about. And I think the odds were slightly better on his.
Well, I think they're probably factoring the same thing I am, that there might only be one person to throw the ball to. I didn't say it was great. I just said there was a shot. So 7-1, 62.50 on that one. That's really all I got for Kansas City, Tampa Bay. Anything on you that you had really aggressive?
No, I mean, I got the one pick, Kansas City -1, and that's pretty much it.
All right, let's move to Monday night. Rams-Niners. Niners 2.5 points favorites here, and I'm just going to basically follow the trend that the 49ers have been doing for 4 years plus. Play a terrible game. 3 years. But play a terrible game versus Denver and look like crap, and then probably kick the crap out of the Rams, and everybody is back on your bandwagon. So I got Niners -2 for 500 just because this is sort of pretty much how it plays out this whole time with the Shanahan-McVay coaching side of things. And I just feel a sort of a little bit of a lazy game for the Rams here. Probably basically because they're watching all these teams play in the NFC and just laughing that no one is any good, so they can probably cruise the rest of the way. But the Niners seem to win these type of games after looking completely awful in that Denver game. So I like the Niners -2 at home here for 500. What do you like in this one?
Listen, I normally don't like to pick my own team, especially for bets, because if you lose, you got that double whammy where you lost money and now you got to suffer through your team losing a game. But I've got a couple bets on the Rams here. For some reason, I've got two of the same bets. This goes to show this is why you don't make bets in the middle of the night. I've got two different money line bets on the Rams at different values for some reason. I just thought that as far as value goes, they were getting 1 point at -110, or you could take a money line at +105. I mean, it's a pretty much no brainer at that point. If it's just a 1 point spread, I'm taking the money line. I think that they can pull it off, and I forgot I had some other ones here that I just can't locate right now, but I do like Allen Robinson to get in this game a little bit because they're really going to be focused on Cooper Kupp, who basically killed them last time during the playoffs when they met. The Niners have won six straight regular season games against the Rams, and honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if we get a seventh straight here. But I think that the Rams are really hungry for this one. I think that they know that this season isn't going to go as well as last season did for them, but I think they're really looking forward to it. I think Aaron Donald and the rest of the gang are looking at this game and they've got it circled. I think they really want to go after San Francisco. And based off what we saw from Jimmy G last week, something's off there. So I'm going to take the Rams here. And Tyler Higbee to score a touchdown possibly is a pretty good one, too.
I got a couple player ones. The automatic Deebo Samuel touchdown +130. The man breaks a 40-yard touchdown, whether run or pass, versus the Rams every game he plays. So I got +130.
Don't remind me.
+130, 250. Now, I was mad they didn't have rush receiving combined yards. I couldn't find that one when I tried to find it. But Deebo.
Shop around.
Yeah. Deebo touchdown +130, 250 on that one. Matthew Stafford interception. That was one they didn't juice. It was only -130. He also throws an interception pretty much every week, no matter what.
Don't forget that was my pick for interception leader at the end of the year.
Wow, I'm voting to have Jameis return once he's healthy. Matthew Stafford interception -130. I got 250 on that one, and then Nick Bosa sack over 0.25. This Rams line's still a little shaky. I look for Bosa to get off, certainly with an inexperienced tackle over there. 0.25 -155 for 125 for me on this one. So anything else in that Rams-Niners game for you?
Listen, I'm sure I'm going to stock up on prop bets since I already went ahead and jinxed myself by making a bet on my team. I'm probably just going to go all in and just take a bunch of prop bets after the show.
All right, I got a handful of parlays, not as many as I usually have. We'll start off with a same-game parlay. Falcons, we got Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Pitts over 55.5, London over 53.5. That's a two-leg parlay for +237. We got a two-leg parlay for rushing yards. Josh Allen rush yards over 41.5. Baker Mayfield rush yards over 11.5. I really think Allen's. I would probably just do that one straight because I think Allen's one of those weirdly competitive guys. He has the aw shucks sort of look about him, but I think he probably will try to show up Lamar here, and this might be one of the games where he tucks it, even though he probably shouldn't. So I think that over 41.5, but the problem was I couldn't really find another good rushing quarterback to par it with, so I just sort of took Baker because I thought 11.5 was low, and that Arizona team, they let Stafford run for like 9 last week. Yes. So I figure Baker can slip
He's
out
not the most immobile quarterbacks out there, so
I figure he could slip out of a sack and get me 12 here. So Allen over 41.5, Mayfield over 11.5, +264, but you're probably better off just taking the Josh Allen over 41.5 there. Three-leg parlay, passing yards. Herbert over 267.5, Mariota over 216, and Baker Mayfield over 203. That's 553 on that one. So I think that one's pretty good. I really like the lowness on Baker at 203.5. I think he can hit that one. He's been in and around about 215 to 190 in all three games. You mix in that Cardinals sort of poor defense, I think he gets that one. Mariota's probably the one that I'm least aggressive on that 216 and 50. That's sort of right around where he's been. He's been in about the 200 to 220 range every game here. Next one, I got my money line parlays, and I got Seahawks Commanders in my first one here. That's 524 for the money line parlay of Seahawks Commanders. Titans Jags at plus 728 in that one, and then Saints Jets at plus 524. So, and then we decided to combine them all into a 16 underdog money line parlay. And maybe the world hits a nice little spinning axis and I hit this, but Seahawks, Commanders, Titans, Jags, Saints, Jets, all to win, plus 321.69. So that's almost 322 to 1. So a $10 bet there will get you about $3,200 if you're looking for a ride. Now, do I think a underdog moneyline parlay of 6 teams will hit? Probably not, but it's the NFL. Stranger things have happened. Then an alternate line parlay, I talked about this. Jets at minus 2.5, Falcons at minus 2.5, plus 481. I thought that was pretty good value on that one. And then another alternate line parlay, Niners at 6.5, Chiefs at 6.5, plus 678. And this one is what I call cover all your parlays so you don't lose money. This one is one I really, really like, and everybody should probably make this one. Giants Packers. You do a money line parlay of Giants Packers. It's even money at plus 110. So I think that's pretty good value there. Giants Packers plus 110. I got 500 on that one. And then I talked about my Bills same game parlay. Diggs, Davis, Allen, touchdown anytime, all three, plus 10,000 or 1,000 on that one. So
10,000. I was going to say, wow, I'm jumping on this.
If it's 10,000, definitely take that one. Plus 1,000. So 10 to 1 on that one. Diggs, Davis, Allen, all anytime touchdown, same game parlay. So that's what I got. A little light in the parlays, more heavy in the just individual straight bets. Anything left for you that you want to tell us about?
No, I mean, I had 2 parlays here that I pretty much mentioned already earlier in the show, but Sportsbook acting up, so probably a good thing that I talked about them earlier now.
All right. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out all our shows. Get in on the college football action. You probably won't be able to get in on all the college football action by the time this loads up, but you might be able to get into some of the night games, maybe the afternoon games. But be sure to watch, like, subscribe. We'll be back with our NFL recap show and our college football show next week on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll probably be back in the studio to do that one. That's our show, and we're out.